afternoon, everybody. I'm your host, Crystal. This is another edition of the 9 o'clock Meltdown podcast, and I have Chris Wester over Instagram with me today, and he is the head and lead of The Witcher Safehouse. Hopefully you guys have heard of it. It's been making a huge splash on Instagram, Facebook, and kind of in the cosplay world. And now, Chris, yourself, you are dressed as Henry Cavill's character, The Witcher, but more so The Witcher from the video games. I'm not a huge
Correct.
I'm not a huge video game nerd, so I do apologize. But you look
I am a huge video game nerd, so
you look absolutely fabulous. I love the multitude of costumes you have behind you, and looks like you've got a Darth Vader helmet and a number of other things. You also, if for the people that can't see, you also have yellow contacts in. Now, I first met you, yes, oh my goodness, the cat eye contacts. That's fabulous. Now, I first met you at the Minnesota Renaissance Festival last summer. And your outfit was absolutely spectacular. I think I met you at one of the pubs.
Thank you. You're too kind.
One of the pubs that were there, and then you told me about The Witcher Safehouse. And now The Witcher Safehouse is a fan page, not only for The Witcher, but for cosplay in general, for people to post their cosplay without fear of being ridiculed or being made fun of, which is something I have found has happened more so than not on the internet. People that want to dress as The Witcher that maybe are women, that's been kind of back and forth. So I think it's really cool that you've opened up a space for people to express themselves in the cosplay realm. Let's dive into your cosplay journey first, because I'm assuming, like anything, it's a very slow kind of progression up to this point. Unless you just dove right in and said, I'm gonna buy this, and this. But Chris, I'll let you speak.
It didn't happen that way at all. So, and I have been playing The Witcher 3, the Wild Hunt video game. I actually played the first two video games back in the 2000s. And when my kids bought me The Witcher 3 and I started playing it, I had been playing Skyrim before that and Oblivion before that, and just was a huge fan of those types of role-playing open world games.
Mm-hmm.
And The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt really ruined me for any other video game. I've been literally playing that game every single morning of my life since 2016. I usually wake up, I get coffee, I feed the dog, sit down, I play an hour to 90 minutes of Witcher 3, and then I go to work. And that doesn't feel like somebody who's really compulsive or like, obsessive.
Mm-hmm.
But I've had people ask me at cons and festivals, how many hours do you think you have on that game? And I didn't know how to do that at first. I had to ask my adult kids, how do I figure out how many hours I have on there? And they're like, give me the move. And they pulled it up, and between the very first version of The Witcher 3 and the updated Game of the Year version combined, unfortunately, I have over 4,000 hours devoted or invested into that game, which is probably more embarrassing than a but so I guess I was really obsessed with the character Geralt and just Witcher lore, the cross storylines and the beauty of just how organically all of these different characters and their particular stories intertwined. So then later on, I was able to get some books and start reading, The Last Wish and some of the books that were written by Andre. And they're definitely dense and way more, packed with information. And I still am kind of always lean back to the video game because that's kind of who I am. And I love the show. But I'm not surprised by the fact that Henry left because the writers were steering away from the source material.
Mm.
So, as far as cosplaying, it was I kind of fell into an accident because besides doing Geralt of Rivia, I also portray a character at a haunt in the Twin Cities area called the Dead End Hayride. I'm one of the characters, the main characters that works the main area and the line area there at the Dead End Hayride. I've been working there now for 8 years as a character called the Voodooed. And the Voodooed has fan pages on Insta, Facebook, and a lot of those social media sites. And again, they're just the same, kind of the same as the Witcher Safehouse. I don't really take any of those pictures. I just ask the fans that I get to meet, if you're willing to share, please send me pictures when you think about it. And I had been doing that. The Dead End Hayride is really where I started cosplaying, if you will, because the first night I worked at the Dead End Hayride, I'm a huge man, so they didn't really have anything laying around for me. I was working in the Voodoo Hut right away, didn't know what I was doing. The first night I worked, it was a disaster. I mean, my outfit was like a carriage driver from 1870 and a silly hat. It was, if you go to the Voodooed fan page and scroll all the way down and look at like my first costume the night I mean, it was so pathetic. And the next day I drove to Goodwill, bought just some ratty, 50 in the chest jacket, tore it up, put some white fabric paint, some voodoo symbols, and just bought a $9 voodoo hat on Amazon, and my cosplay career began. And then because once you start, every time you see a picture of yourself with someone, every time you show up, the people are so excited, and they're just, wow, it's so great. All I'm doing is just looking at, that's awful. You've got to fix that. That's not gonna, you've got to, and all you do is think about all the tweaks and what you have to do to make it better. Mm-hmm. And I did, and I just started my cosplay, kind of evolving into that with the Voodooed, and every year I would make a new voodoo jacket, come up with better hats and hair, and just constantly try and improve that. And my wife and I had been going to the Renaissance Festival for 20 years and didn't always dress up. The last 3 or 4 we had been dressing up just as kind of generic Ren characters or whatever. And somebody at the festival, one time I was there, had thrown out the idea, you'd make a great Geralt. You're tall, you've got white hair and beard, and I had been playing the game anyway, and then I looked at Andrea, I'm like, oh man, maybe I could do this. So then I started that in 2019, and my first Geralt outfit was horrible. I mean, it was awful. Again, it is on the Witcher Safehouse site. If you scroll all the way to the bottom and you look at some of my first outfits, they were bad. But I was, as bad as they were, it always seemed like there was definitely a contingent of folks that recognized me and knew who I was cosplaying anyway. Mm-hmm. And so I just kept it going. I did a big push and put a lot of work and effort into coming up with something that looked way more authentic in 2020. And then I sat at home for 2020 because COVID happened. Mm-hmm. So I had this whole ensemble ready to unveil at the Renaissance Festival in 2020, and then that didn't really happen. So 2021 is pretty much when my Geralt of Rivia Witcher cosplay got unveiled at the Minnesota Renaissance Festival. That would have had to been 2021. Mm-hmm. And since then, I just keep doing it. We had a wonderful season last year. I traveled to Wisconsin to the 2 festivals there, the Wren and the Glen and Newborn Village. I traveled to Bristol, which is just outside of Chicago in, Bristol, Wisconsin. It's just 40 minutes north of Chicago. My wife and I went down to Iowa for Sleepy Hollow last year. And my wife, Andrea, she doesn't do it all, not nearly as much as I do, but she will come as Yennefer occasionally. And she has purple contacts. She has Yen's outfit. And, she's certainly got her attitude, so it ends up working well. I know she made it out the last 2 days of the Minnesota Festival this last year. And everybody was asking me, what's that dumb look on your face? And I'm like, I'm fangirling right now. That's Jennifer. I was probably fangirling more than anybody else was. The fact that she was actually there. So,
oh, that's fabulous, Chris.
But And I spend most of my time, I learned the hard way after the 2021 festival. Right when the festival ends, there's a little bit of an overlap with my Dead End Hayride obligation and the Ren Fest. So I end up, going to the Renaissance Festival until about 4:30 or so. And then I have to drive from Shakopee to Wyoming to do my gig at the Dead End Hayride. And that goes till, anywhere from midnight, 1 or 2 in the morning. And then do the same thing again. And there's about a 2-week overlap in when the Dead End season starts and the Minnesota Ren Fest ends. So those 2 weeks are probably the most hectic for me. But I learned that after the Ren Fest and then the Dead End Hayride, where I'm just surrounded by tens of thousands of people every night, November is tough. November ends up being, I was in 2021, it was the worst. It hit me the hardest. And I had a therapist that had to help me understand that the idea of adrenaline withdrawal or festival withdrawal or whatever you want to call it, but just, all that interaction, all that people interaction for an extrovert like me who fuels, I get my fuel from those interactions, then it's just quiet in November and you're doing nothing. And it was rough. I had some rough months in 2021 and I kind of learned how to find a cathartic way to channel my frustration or that energy, and it's just into crafting. I literally work and then I come home and whatever other obligation I might have, if I have free time, I'm in the basement here just chipping away at next year's outfits, whether it's repairing the stuff that I had last year that just being out at festivals is brutal. Everything rips and tears and it's inevitable. And then creating new outfits. I've got 2 new outfits full-on new outfits. I have a third one that's all in black that I'm actually really excited to try to see if I can get done before summer. And that's kind of how I deal with my withdrawal, from that.
Yeah.
We did go to Twin Cities Con in November, which was a week or so after the Dead End Hayride ended after Halloween, and Andrea and I were both there as Geralt and Yennefer, and had just a blast. Had so much fun, and the fans there were so kind to us. We probably had more fans asking us for photos and talking to us and interacting with us there than we had at the festival, the Ren Fest, I mean. And probably not a surprise, because video game nerds like me get it. The Renaissance Festival, not everybody knows who the Witcher is, much less Geralt or Yennefer. So
Right, Chris, right. And, Chris, I can attest to that kind of adrenaline withdrawal. I did theater and the music scene and sound and photography and more of the artsy things for 10 years. And then I also hosted this show live on a radio station for 10 years. And that was my evenings and my days completely. So then when it really kind of hit me that, whoa, you need to take a step back and really start working on yourself and giving yourself that energy that you've been putting out for such a long time. So yes, there are massive withdrawals and who am I without all this existential stuff going on? But it sounds like you've found a really healthy way to kind of deal with that and prep yourself for the next season, which is really cool. Now, do you make all your own costumes, or do you?
I do.
Okay.
I do. I when I decided to start doing this cosplay thing, I did spend some time on Amazon, Etsy, and some of the play, and I just Googled Witcher armor. And it's a pricey venture, to say the least.
Yes.
I mean, authentic Witcher armor, on whether you're on Amazon, whether you're on Etsy. Etsy probably has the best selection, but up every outfit is going to be anywhere from $3,500 to $15,000, and I just didn't have it. So I had the images in my head from playing the video game for 4,000 hours. So I had literally, and I already had a little bit of crafting skill as far as, easy leather work as far as hole punches and rivets, waxed leather stitching, and then just glue and fabric paint from what I was doing with my voodoo stuff. So again, started over at Goodwill, and I'm an addict now. I can't go a month. Andrea, it just drives her nuts because I can't if I'm going grocery shopping and there's a Goodwill or a thrift store on the way, I'm probably going to be in there. And I think they know me now because I'm a huge man. I'm very tall and I'm old. And when I walk up with like a pair of women's boots that have like six buckles on them
Mm-hmm.
and like this ratty, women's 3X, leather jacket for $6, they're just looking at me like, what is happening here? And I think now they know that I'm not really wearing this stuff, but I think virtually every jacket that I have that I've created started at a thrift shop or Goodwill, and
Mm-hmm.
you just start from there and um, chip away at it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not, I mean, not everything I have is 100% accurate. I just tell people it's Witcher inspired.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I have to admit, based on where I was in 2019, I'm pretty happy with where I am now and the outfits that I have. We went to Twin Cities Con, Andrea and I went to Twin Cities Con, and we did enter the costume contest there, and it was a blast seeing everyone's all the handmade costumes and things. It was just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
When I went to Bristol, I entered the costume contest, and I know when I showed up, I said I'd like to enter the contest. She gave me a sticker, and it said 89, and I'm like, 89, and she's like, oh, it's early, and I'm like, I thought there'd be maybe a dozen people entered. And in Bristol, the costume contest weekend, there's 200 people with handmade costumes.
Wow.
And when they had us all together, they were judging, and the judges are explaining, and my mouth was just open, and I'm just walking around like, oh my God, that's so cool. That's so cool. You made that? And got completely distracted. And actually, they announced the winners like later on, a couple hours later at a different stage, like at 4:30. And I
Mm-hmm.
got lost in that festival and didn't show up. And somebody was asking, they were looking for you, man. Where did you? And I'm like, dude, I got lost. I don't even know where I am now. Do you think I won? And they're like, I don't know. I think they were looking for you. I'm like, well, what would I have won?
Mm-hmm.
2 tickets to the Bristol Ren Fest. I'm like, okay, well, I'm driving home today, so
Yeah.
I'm not going to sweat it, I guess.
Right,
But
right. So it all worked out in the
I'm
end.
constantly in awe of I mean, most of my best ideas
Mm-hmm.
have come from other cosplayers that I've met and just had a chance to really kind of dig in and look at what they've done
Mm-hmm.
and just steal from it. And lots of great ideas out there, which is another motivator for the Witcher Safehouse and why I don't draw a line at cosplays. I mean, anything you do, if you made it, um, it's worthy of appreciation and kindness.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also, and I think that was another motivator I meant to tell you about, Crystal, because I've been one of the admins for the Witcher 3 Facebook group online. There's over 50,000 members,
Mm.
and I've been doing that for I was doing that before I started cosplaying Geralt.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you right now, that group is cruel. I mean, and not all of them. I mean, out of 50,000 members, I'd say probably 10% of them, if I post a cosplay photo on that page,
Mm-hmm.
by the end of the day, there will be at least 800 comments, and most of them are either Walmart Witcher or you really should be doing Vesemir. You'd be better as Vesemir, or I don't know. They can be really cruel. So
Mm.
I stick with the cosplay sites or groups,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
the Reddit page I ended up on by accident because somebody at the Renaissance Festival posted a photo of me on accident, and all of a sudden this guy's trending like 10,000, and I'm like, oh, is that me?
Oh.
And then it just kind of accidentally happened, but
Mm. Mm-hmm.
um, that was my motivator for creating a safe realm
Mm-hmm.
where no matter how long you've been doing it, no matter how much any effort, all of us have to start somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
and you need encouragement when
Mm-hmm.
your outfit isn't exactly where the way you want it, or you need to spend more money or do this or that. You're not going to do it if people are shooting you down right away.
Right.
And I just think it's magical.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I've been part of the Witcher Safe House on Instagram, and some of those costumes that people come up with are things that I would have never thought of. There's a picture of you and a lady, and she's painted herself completely red. And I think she's got some little horns and stuff like that. But, I mean, the amount of time...
Amazing.
Yeah, the amount of time that it takes to, let alone paint yourself completely red.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have that kind of patience, so I applaud people that do.
It's passion. It's their passion, and I want to be the guy that's supporting that, for sure.
Yes, of course. That's absolutely fabulous that you've created a more positive space for people to be in. Just because I think with the internet these days, anybody can spit their opinion, whether that's good or bad or in between. So I think it's really amazing that you, in the byline of Witcher Safehouse, it's, positive comments only, which I think is very cool. It's very inclusive. I love all the photos that you guys come up with and just all the encouragement comments that come after it. It's really amazing that you've really put a positive foot forward in the social media realm of, dare I say, insanity, maybe?
Maybe, but thank you for the kind words. It means a lot. It's what keeps me going, basically, those encouraging words from everyone.
Yes.
The Renaissance Festival, the Minnesota Renaissance Festival, I have to give them a shout out because the year I came out there in 2021 was a great year, but I couldn't be there as much as I wanted to because walking around in this outfit is exhausting. And I couldn't. I was having trouble finding water, and it was just very difficult. And last year for the 2022 season, the management was able to work out a situation for me where I had a table reserved at the King's Wine Cellar, which is the pub right next to the Viking encampment. So I could, no matter how tired or how long I've been walking, I could go there. The staff there knew who I was. They would be able to re-water me and help me kind of have a place for me to sit and just recover, and then play cards, play Gwent. One of the things that Witcher 3 video game players love is a Witcher card game that's embedded in the game called Gwent. It's similar to Magic, the Gathering, but it's Witcher, aligned and geared. And I can't tell you how many times I've gone out to festivals where people are like, this is absolutely spot on Witcher 3. And I'm like, well, do you play Gwent? And they're like, oh my God, I love playing Gwent. And I'm like, you want to play? And they're like, well, I don't have any cards. I didn't bring any cards. I'm like, I have 2 decks. Pick one. It won't matter. I'll kick your ass either way. But you want to play or not? And I played a lot of Gwent last year, which was amazing. It was so much fun. And I had people literally, finding the pub and letting the bartenders know, is Geralt here? I would love to play Gwent, and I would book it over there. That move, basically, by the Minnesota Renaissance Festival, in addition to just having parking that was way more accessible for myself, made it easy for me to be out there every weekend. And it was great. They were so kind, and it just allowed me the chance to not only connect with a lot more fans, but the employees. In 2021, I had so many employees that were messaging me and saying, dude, I saw you walk by, but I only get, a half-hour break, and I could be looking through the festival for 2 days and not find you. I'm like, well, now, when you get your break, head over to that pub and just let them know, and I will book it over there, and I'll meet you there. So we can book out a quick little game of Gwent or whatever. And I'm hoping we'll be able to get that done this year as well.
Yes, and actually, Chris, that's how you and I met. My husband was sitting at the table across from you, and I was wandering around through the shops, and then finally found my friends. We found my husband, and my husband is like, look, it's Geralt. It's Geralt. He's playing Gwent. And I'm like, well, ask him to play. And my husband's like, no, it's fine. I'm like, okay, fine. If you're not going to ask him to play, I'll ask him for a photo. And you were up at the bar, and I had asked you for a photo, and I still remember it. You're like, okay, now look at me, and this will be the best photo you'll ever get out of the festival. And it totally was. I still have it. It's absolutely phenomenal. And then shockingly enough, right after I got a photo with you, I had this older woman come up to me and ask me for a photo. And I'm like,
You looked good that day. I mean, let's face it, you looked fantastic.
well, thank you. Thank you. So yeah, that was
I think everybody I run into at any festival that's willing to dress up. I mean, at the con we went to, I was so impressed with how many people took the time and effort to dress up. And I literally will just kind of whisper it and just say, "Thank you for dressing. You look fantastic. You make this more magical for me. Just taking the time and effort to do all this. So thank you."
yeah.
And that goes for you too. I mean, you looked amazing that day.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Now, Chris, what kind of encouragement, I mean, even though we just got done kind of talking about it, but what kind of encouragement would you have for people that are just starting out their cosplay or just dressing up in general? I know for me, when I was starting out, now I've been in theater for a long time, so kind of that initial fear is gone for me. But I know when I was starting out, it was, oh, I don't look exactly like the character, or I don't have X that the character does. But really, it's about being comfortable with what you're wearing and kind of taking a spin and making it your own. But what kind of encouragement do you have for people that may be starting out, or maybe people that have been shot down in the past?
Embrace your passion. You know what? It starts with that. You have to really be passionate about the character, and that comes from really love. Like, you need to love the character. And if you've got that kind of passion and love, and you're investing it into what you're doing, when the naysayers say things, and they will, they're out there. Every naysayer that's out there that's going to make fun of you or maybe make a comment, there are two others out there who are going to be like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe that's them. That's Sailor Moon right there. I mean, wow, wowie, wow." And just and it's hard. I mean, it's hard because there definitely have been days where one or two comments, and I'm just sitting in the basement, just like, you know what? I realize that I have the heart of Geralt, but I've got the face of Vesemir, damn it. And, and you can't dwell on those things. You need to really, when you have stuff like that happens, you have to go back and lean on a lot of the positive. The people that were influenced, the people that were impacted by your effort, try to dwell on that. And it's so much easier said than done. I struggle with it big time. I have struggled with regret my whole life, and I have days where it's tough to bounce back. And you literally could see, 60 comments are all good, and then this one jerk is like, whatever. What did you buy that at Walmart or whatever? And you just you can't let it derail your passion. How passionate are you about your character? How much do you love it? Do you love it enough to endure the stupid comments from people that, have no idea how long and hard the journey was for you? You gotta just hang in there. At the very least, if it happens to you, if you're watching this or listening to this, send me a message and I will encourage you, because I've been there and I know how hard it is.
Yeah, perfect. And now, Geralt, I know something kind of and now I'm not super involved in the cosplay world. I've just kind of started my journey. But I know for the diehard cosplayers out there, you have to make your own costume. There can't be anything that's store-bought. What is your opinion on that? What are your kind of thoughts coming from a cosplayer that makes all of his own costumes?
I try to encourage people, you know what? Dressing up and portraying your favorite character, it's just your passion is still there. It counts just as much. There are those of us that have been making a lot of this stuff out of necessity because we just can't afford to buy the really expensive outfits or do those things, and maybe we don't have the skill or whatever, but it shouldn't detract. I mean, there's no question. I've entered into costume contests where they're like, you know what? How much of this is handmade and how much did you? Because, it needs to be at least 80% handmade.
Oh.
And I explain what I did and then let them decide and then just move on with my life, because I'm not going to get hung up with it, and I don't really care as much about winning the costume contest as being there to see all the other costumes that are there and that have there's a con coming up here in March. I think it's March 4th in Columbia Heights. It's I think it's called Kohai, Cohi, and it's a video game comic convention that's in Columbia Heights on March, and I plan on being there, and there should be a lot of video gamers there and probably cosplayers as well. And I'm hoping to see a lot of them and just do that exact thing. Just thank every single one of them for their effort.
Very cool, Chris. Very cool. And now, do you post kind of where you're going to be next? Is that on Facebook or Instagram? How can people get a picture with The Witcher?
A picture with The Witcher.
A picture with The Witcher.
You know, Crystal, I don't have my act together that much to really get, but now that you mention it, I think I probably will try to do a better job of mentioning on our fan pages, at least 3 that I'm on, that, you know, this is coming up. If you get a chance, if you see me there, don't be shy. Just yell The Witcher or come up. If you're like, I'm not sure if he wants to, yes, come up and talk to me, because I want to talk to other people that love The Witcher as much as I do. And I think just this meeting, just your encouragement, I got to try to do a better job of that. And I have a busy schedule planned for 2023. I mean, I know the Minnesota Renaissance Festival's got to get their parking act together. Hopefully they will. But we have others. We'll be at Newborn Village, the new Renaissance Festival that's in Chippewa Falls. I'm going to try to be there every weekend if I can. I believe that starts in May. Ren in the Glen is another Wisconsin festival. I think that's July. Andrea and I'll be traveling to Bristol again, I think the first week in August, and we're trying to take a contingent of Minnesota Ren Festers with us. Kind of Minnesota invades Bristol that first week of August together. And I went to Bristol last year alone, and I loved it. I thought it was an amazing. It wasn't quite as large as the Minnesota Renaissance Festival, but I found it to be cleaner. I found the acts. I just thought it was amazing. It was beautiful. The only thing that could have made it better was if Yennefer had been with me. She will be with me there this year. So
excellent, wonderful. Well, Chris, who is the founder of the Witcher Safehouse on Instagram and Facebook. You also dress up as Geralt. You also do a haunted hayride down in the Twin Cities. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to dress up.
You're welcome.
And to speak with me about the Witcher Safehouse and cosplay in general. I wish you luck on 2023, and hopefully we will cross paths. Either at Bristol, because now I'm very interested, or at the Minnesota Renaissance. Thank you so much.
Crystal, thank you for the opportunity. It was awesome to talk to you today.
All right. Have a wonderful day.